Ever wonder what your IT provider isn't telling you? Yeah, we're going there. Welcome to Why It Matters, the show where we expose the IT your business runs on and why it matters. Hello and welcome to Why It Matters. I'm Tyler, and as always, I'm here with my cohorts, Jeff Kruger and Josh Baker. Welcome, guys. Cheers,
hello.
Claps. Yay.
Happy Friday.
Yay. Happy Friday to everybody, for sure. Definitely, it has been an interesting couple of weeks for us. We've had a lot going on. We've had some sickness in the office and some illness in families and some crazy things.
My kids have it now. They both.
I had like a micro cold that kind of went.
It's my oldest is just nonstop blowing his nose, but like it's that nothing's coming out, so it's just like, bro, just stop blowing your nose.
Dude, it's summer. Give us a break.
Yeah.
We need a little time off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this week we wanted to discuss old tech and new tech and the cycle of tech over the years. We've mentioned this before, but we'll do it again just for context of this episode. Josh, how many years have you been working in technology?
12 with Stability Networks, but I mean, it's been a lifelong adventure.
Are you a child hacker?
I learned how to code in BASIC. I mean, I grew up on a Commodore 64.
You can count that.
Of all things.
You can count that. Jeff counts it.
Yeah, I mean.
Jeff, how long for you?
Going that far back would have been 41 years ago.
Jeez.
Yeah, this was...
Yeah, if you start when you're a kid, you...
Late 80s.
I was going to say 1985, Apple II checked out from the junior high school.
Yeah. I started in... October of 1988 doing IT. So it was way different. And one of my favorite stories that is my favorite and probably doesn't matter to anyone else, but I remember seeing my first PC. And it was in the form of taken apart, right? It was an 8088. It was the slide-off IBM style case. I remember walking into this business at the time, and my first job was with a company that did escrow software. And they had Coldwell Banker escrow in Southern California, all of Southern California, all the way to the border. From Bakersfield to the border, there was like 300 and something of these escrow companies. And what they did was they had an escrow software, and the entire escrow software was based upon WordPerfect macros, the whole thing. Right. And at the time, it was terminal style screens. You could, the green, but most people use the amber, right? Amber screen. And the whole thing was based on Alt, Shift, F1, Shift, F1, and all. And they had these huge sheets of what they would do. And basically, it copied and pasted and moved, all designed on macros. And I remember at the time, one of the owners of the company, he was the quote unquote programmer. And now that I know better, I'm like, you were the copy and paste master is all you were. Copy and paste from here to here. And they sold that program all over the place. And initially when I started, the program was installed on an 8088. It was basically a PC, right? It ran DOS, probably 2 something at the time. And it was done with a digiboard. Do you remember digiboards? A digiboard was basically a multiple serial card that would go into the server. So you would load NetWare. This is how old I am right here. NetWare 2.0A is what it was. And it had a key card with it. And the key card was the serial card, right? So you had to build the machine, and then you put the serialization card into it. And then it had wires that went out to dumb terminals. So you used the one PC and shared it like a mainframe or a mini or something like that, right? And then we moved to other versions of NetWare and on to blah, 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 and out of that. But seeing that PC for the first time, it was intimidating. It seems like there was a lot to it. You actually had to fix things back then. So we built the PCs, we built them, we built the network, we wired the network, we did everything and installed it. That was the first job. And it was like throw into the deep end, go. Go and learn.
Yeah, I can remember sitting in the lab when I was in probably 5th or 6th grade, going to the junior high and sneaking in when all the other kids were running around to get into the computer lab to be able to actually get computer time. Because you used to have to get, oh, how do I learn how to code? Well, there weren't really lots of good books, but there were magazines everywhere. So you could go to the library, check out the magazine, and then sneak into the computer lab and then sit there and type away until either you finished it and you got it to work and then save it to a disk and bail.
I never knew about the magazines.
And then, or you would get caught by one of the junior high school teachers. And then, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Who are you? What class do you belong to? While you're trying to save your stuff, get your disk and get out. Because you know that you're going to end up having to talk to the principal and they're going to call your parents and it's going to be a real bad time. So I got really good at saying I was my brother until my brother got significantly taller than me.
Yeah, my first memory is probably early 90s, and it's all MUDs. Yeah. Telnetting and playing MUDs, which I guess would be the first MMORPGs, right? In reality, right?
Yeah.
The MUDs back in the day. Building things. One of my fondest memories discovering on the Windows 95 installation disk that there was like this tank game.
Yes.
Do you remember that tank game that was all like wireframe and you go around, you shoot little objects and all that kind of stuff, right? And then
shit, Jeff and I played Gorillas up until just a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
Worms.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can remember playing QBasic Gorilla because that came with Windows way back.
Way back.
And you just sit there and, all right, yeah, I know pretty much every map, doesn't matter. 45 degrees, you just change or 45 speed, you just change the angle and you're going to get the other guy in 2 to 3 hits.
That's right. The big one was Wolfenstein, though, for me, that actually kind of changed the game of what PCs were. And I think I was working at Zercom at the time, and we had a lot of laptops because they would test tons of different laptops. So I would take laptops home, 3 or 4 or 5, and then wire them up in the house, and we could actually play.
This is flashbacks, right? Because I played a lot of Wolfenstein back in the day, and Commander Keen, if you remember Commander Keen, yes. Right? All these little games and it's funny to me, right? Because now you have people putting like full versions of Doom on like the new versions of TI-80, whatever it is, calculators and vibe coding on calculators and all these different crazy things that you can do compared to where we came from to where like
Jeff had to hide in the library with magazines. Now it's just
that could be taken differently, but
he did it. He did it for multiple reasons.
Phrasing,
different sections of the library.
Yes.
The library you had a curtain you have to go behind.
I mean, it's all about getting that ASCII art.
Did it have an adults only sign hanging on the outside? Different curtains. No. When we started building file servers. I remember it was the first one I built was a 20 megabyte hard drive. What was a server, right?
It's huge.
Yeah. And it was just a NetWare server, just files. You just clicked on files and loaded different things, and that was all you needed. And then, of course, as it grew so quickly, we ended up going around to all these locations and changing the hard drive to a 40 or an 80 or and I think 80 was probably the largest that we had at the time. It was a single 80. And those POS servers used to crash and die. And if you ever did really old stuff like NetWare used to have a thing called CompSurf, Comprehensive Service Analysis, and you'd run CompSurf on it, and it took 24 hours minimum to run this test, and it would not load the operating system until the test had been completed. So you could run a whole test, get to the 23rd hour, and fail. You have to start all over with a different hard drive because you couldn't use the same hard drive. It's ridiculous times. Now everything is at our fingertips. It's like quick action, And you said it earlier about PCs becoming a commodity. We used to fix everything. In fact, we used to solder boards and mess with motherboards and try to fix chipsets and things like that. And there's no repair at all anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy because, my father and the things that he used to do in his younger years, right? I still hear the story frequently about how it blows his mind when he was in the control room for the moon landing at NASA, right? And how their server infrastructure would take up 20,000 square feet
Yeah.
of nothing but
Crazy.
servers, right? And now you could land on the moon with the phone.
And it's pretty amazing, though. You think about that technology that was back then, and there's still spaceships and whatever they call them, not rovers, but long range craft that go out.
Probes and stuff, yeah.
And that shit is still working. That
at
technology, yeah, Voyager.
Voyager 1 and 2 are still working, and it's literally the same dudes that launched them who are now having to code around the fact that so much of the radioactive material that's providing the power has decayed, that they're having to just we'll just turn off this part. Well, we'll turn off this part.
That's crazy.
We're going to shuffle stuff around so we can turn this back on, and we're going to turn these off. And we're going to code around this problem. And it's 23 hours each way for a signal.
Oh, wow.
So if you think about that, and that technology still
Pretty
works.
amazing that they did that.
It's mind blowing. Like how, I mean, just look at the video game systems we grew up with and how those have changed, right?
Yeah.
Going from, I never really got into, I was not old enough for like the whole Atari and everything else prior to that, right? But even arcade games, like I remember 6, 7 playing Nintendo Super Mario, Duck Hunt, on a CRT TV, with all that kind of stuff. And now
memories of Duck Hunt.
And now I watch my kids play Roblox on an iPad that is leaps and bounds beyond. And I mean, now next gen video game systems, Grand Theft Auto 6, if it ever comes out, those types of things, right? I mean, it's just absolutely mind blowing. I mean,
the interesting thing is we don't
30
even
years
use near the power. I mean, we have way more power than we use on a daily basis as a standard user or consumer.
It blows my mind, to Jeff's point of having to go sneak into a computer lab and take things from libraries to where, like, you can go build your own very thought out application just using AI now, right? To where you can develop anything you want and you don't have to know anything about anything other than what your expectations are.
What's your end goal?
What's your end goal, right? And then you just work backwards from the beginning and using artificial intelligence to help you code anything. Realistically, where are we going to be in 5 years? Where are we going to be in 10 years? Like, that blows my mind.
And I think to your point, we've had a lot of discussions recently about this, the dangers of that kind of free and open and available technology, right? It's great that you can create that, but what does he say in Jurassic Park? It's whether you can or whether you should. That's how I kind of feel like right now. It's just this wild west of creation, because we have a lot of customers call us and they create things on the fly and they work somewhere between 60% and 80% maybe, but there's those pieces that are missing because the technology is not there yet. Years from now, it probably will fill in the gaps, but right now, today, it creates a lot of problems for an environment.
Well, and a lot of AI is knowing really what do you want. It's not just about, oh, here's a really cool idea, make this for me. You have to break it up into, I want something that it looks this way, it does things this way, it stores things this way, it catalogs things this way. And the more clearly you have the idea in your head and the more structured it is, the better your prompt to the AI is going to be, so that when it does compile that thing you want, you're much more likely to get what you're actually trying to get, as opposed to throwing 4 lines at it and hoping it's close.
Yeah, a really interesting thought exercise that I've ran into, not frequently, but over time. I know I've learned how to code prior to AI, right? It just helps me now. But the crazy thing is like, you can take an idea, even if it's a very sound idea, starting at the end rather, with what your expectation is and working all the way through the process. But at the end of the day, you're still missing things that you're not thinking of, right? Especially for like production things.
Yeah, especially that kind of stuff.
An example is like an invoice automation using artificial intelligence, right? Where it scrapes things. Well, what happens if your AI processing fails? Now you need to start queuing things and rebatch things through the process, right? So there's
People
all these
take it almost too simply. They simplify it too much.
and that's the problem, right? Like they have this grand idea that they want to build, which is great. And I'm sure it'll work once it's done, but you've probably missed some like, and I always take it, I always dub it as the unfun pieces of development, right? Because like when you're building and you're churning away and you're actually creating things, you're like, oh shit, that works. This is so cool. I'm on the right path. And then you get done only to realize that you missed half of what should go into it, not because you didn't want to do it, but because it's not this is awesome. Look how productive I'm being. It's the afterthought things, the security pieces, the boundaries, the access, the who can do what, when, why, those types of things.
It's made it seem so easy on the surface to everyone that they miss those critical back end pieces that you're talking about, really crossing all the T's and dotting I's for a true development of an application that works in a production environment. It's one thing if you're just building it for home for fun. It's another thing if you're doing it in a business.
Well, and to Josh's point that he's made in several other podcasts, when you're designing something and you're looking for a production solution, you have to really know what you're trying to get to.
Who it affects, how they use it,
them, all of those things.
Yeah.
And if you don't think about that, you're just going to end up having to go back and redo things over and over.
We have a lot of customers who are in that very same position. They have a problem in their organization and they have a guy who has gotten into AI. And it may be someone who has had some programming experience or maybe not, but writes this quick little app and goes, just like you said, oh, it's great now. It works fantastic. But then the back end of it is never thought about. And that's you change in hardware over time, you change in technology and everything ramps up so quickly. We've almost made it too easy.
Well, but like even with conversations with customers who are building their own things, right? They're thinking about, how does this benefit me now, right? They're not looking for, is this something that can be maintained over time? And what does it look like in 5 years?
Our entire society of instant gratification it infects the computer world as well, right? That whole mindset of I need it right now and I need it quickly. That's what you're talking about.
Well, it's critical thinking. Is what it is, right? When you're developing these types of things, you have unlimited capabilities at your fingertips. Realistically, you're telling your thought partner, artificial, whatever you want to call it, what your thought is, it's giving you results. And it's like, okay, I copy, paste, go. Copy. Okay, that didn't work. Here's the error. Okay, fix this, go do that, right? But you're not really thinking through the process. You're just reacting to a response that is being given to you based upon something that's happening, right? Where it's kind of like having a vision board, right? What's the vision over time? And then each piece of the vision, there are little micro wins where like you could be a phased-based approach when building something, right? Well, each phase should be looked at like, did I do this correctly, right? Just because I know how to do something one way, a good example is I've lived in the Microsoft Power Platform for half a decade, right? I know ups and downs of the Power Platform. Well, now that I have all this other things available to me, do I really need to use this? Because my bias is towards the Power Platform because I know it. Do I need to live there? Or is it better to do something elsewhere? And like, even in the last year, it's turned into much less Power Platform automation and more so either like C# or Python development in Azure using those services because they just work better. Instead of having to manually update things, you're updating a code base and then you're pushing from a repo to update what you're doing based upon whatever. So it's not just the technology changing, but it's how you have to reevaluate the ways of doing things in the past to now what is available to you.
You have to apply the right technology as a solution to the problem. And now there's a lot of choices.
Correct.
Well, and it's also looking to the future. What's the future going to be with AI? Well, the models are going to change. The models are going to grow. The models are going to gain competency. How much of what you're doing in current models is going to transfer into those new models?
How do you build something that's flexible?
Exactly. How do you port from, say, we're using Copilot right now inside of 365. Well, what happens when something else comes out and it's specifically better at something? So you want to port that information out of the 365 AI into this other AI, or a piece of it just to get a part you want. And that's going to be where AI is going to grow into, is the portability between, I want to take this piece of the model that I built here, I want to use it here, but I need to do it in a way that it's going to understand it.
And you know, that's just been the history of IT. That's been the history of computers in general, moving things from one system to another.
Well, I mean, the AI conversation we're having right now bleeds over to everything else that we're seeing in industry, right? Like, think about what's available to a company that has or has had like a remote desktop. Right. And everything's been kept on premise in a file server, and they have domain controllers, and they have application servers now. Right. It's getting people out of the mindset of, well, it's always worked. Why do I need to change it? Well, because the world's changing over time and there's better methods to do it. Like, why do you need a whole bunch of shit on premise? That's all CapEx, right? You're buying tangible items, they're living there, right? If you have a server room, you need to provide environmental measures to ensure that the server room's cold and there's not like a light switch tied to a power plug where everything's plugged into, which we've ran into, which is hysterical, right? And that brings into like, oh, go use Azure Virtual Desktop. It's the exact same thing as remote desktop, but better, right? And now you're moving CapEx to OpEx because you're paying for a deliverable service through a subscription from a vendor. So now you're dealing with money flow and tax write-offs and things alike, right?
Well,
people don't really think about these types of scenarios moving forward and progressing, because that doesn't just progress their technological footprint to allow them to build out better than they have been, but it's a better method of controlling your information from a security perspective.
And it also is from the perspective of, how do people work now? How many people want to work from home? How many people want to work while traveling? If everything's at your office and your office internet goes down, nobody can do anything unless they're physically in your office. If everything's in the cloud and your office internet goes down, people can go work from anywhere else.
There has been, through the history of IT and computers, there has always been this theme about forward progression and upgrades, right? And you have customers who have stayed, or companies who have stayed stagnant, like you said, right? My system works, my terminal server works. Why am I wanting to change from that? And it turns out the same every single time for these customers. They wait and they wait and they wait until a technology like AVD. How long has AVD been out? 7 years,
Couple
more.
Years, yeah. I mean, there's been a couple different evolutions there, but realistically,
but the actual in 365 Azure Virtual Desktop stuff, that's been years and years and years. And you've had upgrades to the server OS, and you've had upgrades to Office, multiple upgrades to Office, right? And these people get stuck in the past. Every single time it turns out the same way. When they're ready to move, it's always harder.
Well,
always harder.
Let me give you a story that happened yesterday, right? So I was at my physical therapist, right? My physical therapist used to work for the VA for 11, 12 years. He was a physical therapist for the VA. And I was telling him how the VA wants me to switch over to like physical therapy for the time being with them to deal with sciatica that I'm dealing with, right? Old war wounds. And he was like, yeah, the VA called me and requested all the information, but it's going to take a while. I'm like, well, why would it take a while? Well, the VA still operates off old terminal-based systems. So it's not like he can send an electronic EMR record that's mine over to the VA and it just integrates into their system. No, it has to be a physical copy sent to the VA. They scan the actual documents to get them electronically stored, and then someone's actually doing the data entry to copy over into the system, right? So my point of this is, it's not just you being left behind, but what happens if vendors and people that you deal with
the world
are moving up, right? And all of a sudden something that you've used forever is no longer compatible with what you have. And now you're scurrying to get everything upgraded.
Look at our airports, government, everything, these critical systems.
All those terminals are Windows XP.
Yeah,
they're still Windows XP.
Left them for years.
I mean, how many times, just as our company has had to deal with other companies we work with, that we do their support where they have a server that just Hey, you guys need to replace this. You guys need to replace this. It's out of warranty. You guys need to replace this. The operating system's out of support. You need to replace this. Hey guys, yeah, it's dead. To see the fire coming out of it, it's gone. We have to restore from backup.
We just recently had a customer with a 7 or 8 year old server that did not want to change that server and asked us to call and see if they would extend the warranty on it.
Yep.
So we did. But the warranty extension is best effort. So you pay for a warranty on something and they go, when you ask for the part, we may or may not have it. Yeah. Sorry, do you still want the warranty? Why don't you just move on with technology, move your stuff into a hosted scenario, into a cloud environment scenario, something like that, because that's where the future is going.
Well, here's another perfect example to ride that story, right? We have a client that has a pharmacy, right? Working with that vendor to get things working correctly, right? It needs certain compute resources, certain speed drives, this, that, and the other, right? So is it easier to purchase hardware and upgrade the hardware in a physical box, or is it easier to have it hosted like in Azure or somewhere else where you can just select the drop down, change the SKU of the server, and it re-provisions the server with the new resources? We're like that on the fly, and you're back up and running in less than 30 minutes with all your information still there, right? It takes upgrade paths out of the picture because you're no longer worried about having to maintain, I need 128 gigs of RAM on the server because it has SQL installed and there's some application stuff, but now the SQL database has gotten so large, it's consuming and the logs are growing, so you're running out of storage and all this other kind of shit, right? Why even go down that path anymore? Because now you're dealing with physical and tangible issues that you must go and purchase things and physically add instead of just select, drop down. And
it's amazing these software companies don't have forward thinkers. Like, where did you think we were going to be 5 years ago? Didn't you think this was going to happen? We all knew it was happening. Anybody who had half intelligence knew it was coming. Why didn't you start making the change? Well, they didn't. And that company you just mentioned, when we got on the phone with them and talked to them about it, they're like, yeah, it doesn't really work, but we're working on something that should be done by the end of 2026 or beginning of 2027. They waited too long. And then they sacrificed the customer.
I mean, this reminds me, and here's another example you'll probably remember, right? Developing applications to the point of there isn't a lot of available information. There's no cheat code where you can go steal things from other people's Gits or use AI to help develop. It was what I learned in school and what I learned works best for me. And if anyone else started programming like I did, all you're doing is stealing other people's shit, understanding how it works, reverse engineering and taking the pieces that you want, right? Well, I remember we dealt with a company who had a contractor that built an application for them. And during the development process, they hard-coded IP addresses throughout the entire thing, right? And not using DNS. Right. So when it comes time to move applications or change things around, heaven forbid they're moving offices or growing and things have to change. Now you have to go back in and redevelop it because you've hard coded things that should have never been hard coded. Right. It's just the mentality that's changed over time, and best practices change over time, and best practices aren't just within development, but also
laziness,
technology in your business and how you use it.
Yeah. Lazy coders.
It's coders that are on a time frame and they got to make this thing work, and they got to make this thing work. That's, as I've said before, I think you guys have said too, we're all beta testers now.
Yeah.
Everybody's on that time crunch because it's not about when the product is done. It's about when sales and marketing said we'd ship it.
You said something funny yesterday when we were out for a walk about Star Citizen, the game Star Citizen. And you said it had been in alpha for how long?
It's been in alpha for 13 years. And people play it, and I've played it. It's a fun game, but you have to understand it's an alpha. It's going to break. You're going to fall through things. Things are not going to work right. It's an alpha, but at the same time, I've played Baldur's Gate 3, a brand new AAA top tier title. And due to a bug, I was 3 hours into the game and had to start all over because the game just decided, no, you just can't leave this room now. Every game is not finished. There is no such thing. We were talking in that same conversation. It used to be when a game was done, it shipped on physical media.
Yes.
It had to work. It had to work every time because you couldn't, there was no grand internet backbone for pushing patches.
Yeah.
It had to work, and it had to work on a swath of hardware, and it had to be right. We don't have that anymore. It's get it functional,
Yep.
and then we'll patch it later.
We started in the beginning with loading software applications and full-blown server operating systems, loading them from 5 1/4 floppies.
Here's your 3/4 ring binder, and here's your 80 floppy disks that you need to go one by one.
My very first tech kit included a multi-bit screwdriver set and a flip-top box for floppies. It was the one with the tan bottom and the smoke top, and you flipped it open, and it was like a filing system, right? And you had your 5 1/4 filed in there, right? And that was how I started. I'd go to a customer, I'd flip that out, I'd pull my discs out, and I'd do my.
I mean, that was 15 years ago.
Was it?
Well, 15 years ago.
I mean, 15 years ago was more CDs.
When did we? Yeah, CDs.
20 years ago was towards the end of floppy drives.
So yeah, 25
But also
years
the
ago.
end. It's the, you go back to the 80s and it was 5 1/4. You get into the 90s and it was the 3 1/2. You get to the late 90s and that's when the zip disk came out, which was a 3 1/2 100 meg.
All I remember is starting with Stability Networks 2013, 2014, and going into one of our rooms and finding a sealed US Robotics 56K with installation software.
That's right.
Old AIM sleeves and all that kind of stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
Right. And
56K is where we ended. That was the fast.
Oh yeah.
That was the fastness right there.
I was an LPB in Quake in 96.
We had 300 baud, 600 baud, 9, 12, 14, 4.
Yep. 14, 4, 28, 8, 56.
That's right.
And it's that growth, but it's one of those, we look back and now it's, if you go back 10 years, if you had a couple 100 meg, you were a king. Now, if you've got less than 2 gig, you're just you're literally,
a peasant.
Yeah, you're a peasant. And technology has changed so much over time.
Yeah.
Go back 20 years, you're talking servers, networks, firewalls. 15 years, you're talking, antivirus, the beginning of 2nd-gen firewalls looking at traffic.
Because I went from my floppy pack that I would carry to a CD pack. And then I carried a CD pack. And then I think after CDs, I had thumb drives. Isn't that what came after that?
Yep.
CDs and then thumb drives. And then
the CDs.
The disappearance of all of it.
The niche of zip disks and jazz drives.
Zip disks.
Zip disks.
And then it got into
that never really caught on.
We used jazz drives to back up servers. There was a really brief time because really it was a small audience for that because it was tape. Most of it was onto tape.
And that's, again, tape backups to USB hard drive backups to NAS backups to NAS backups to cloud backups to, all of these things change over time. But some of it, like I mentioned, commoditizes. Some of it is just a through line, but it's gotten so mature that you don't really think about it anymore. You don't think about your backups anymore if you're using the right products. They just do their thing.
Yeah.
You don't think about antivirus anymore because it's all tied into the operating system.
It used to be so huge. Do you remember that? That was the discussion with everybody. What antivirus do you use? Do you use Norton? It's better than you'd have these whole tech arguments with people about
McAfee,
who was better. The reality was it was all shit.
It's all shit.
That antivirus was trash. It never really was good anyways.
Well, and you're now to the modern day, and it's not about antivirus, anti-malware, any of that. It's about heuristics. What is your box doing? And does the software say, it probably shouldn't be doing that? I'm going to throw up an error, which is why what do malware attackers, the first thing they do? Go try to stop. Go try to stop Windows Defender or Microsoft Defender.
It's crazy how slow everything works though and moves along. Because I remember when it was the 2nd or 3rd year as the Marine Corps, probably 2000, 2001, and I had a chief warrant officer that I worked with that opened up an email with the Anna Kournikova virus.
Yes,
Remember
right.
that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the military wasn't using antivirus at the time.
Oh,
They weren't, dude. I mean, until the introduction
Our
of
government? What are you talking about? I thought they were perfect.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
No, Doge came in and fixed everything.
well,
Oops.
Well, so how do I integrate AI systems into terminal systems and actually do something? Like, this is the point, right? Technology is so far ahead of certain stagnant entities, whether that's a business or the government or the VA or whatever it is, to where like you have to find workarounds just to get things talking to each other. And sometimes it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. That's why the private sector is a lot easier to deal with. But even in the private sector, you have hard heads who think old. Right. Well, is this worked? I get people tell me this all the time, but this has been working for years. I'm like, how old are you? What world are you living in?
I need a phone on my desk.
Yeah, I have to have a physical phone. That was funny. You know, phones have come even in the last 8 years that you and I have been doing phone systems together. 8 years ago, when we were putting phone systems in, people would insist on that physical phone. They would give it up on death. Now it's a completely different conversation. Every once in a while, you get somebody who goes, yeah, I need a physical phone, but they in general do not care. And their soft phone exists on. Well,
they come full circle. They just have to go through the process, because we did a very large phone system install to an entity here, right? And they bought every single person a phone, everyone a phone. Yeah. And then about 12 months later, I get an email from their head of IT, and it's like, hey, do you guys want to buy like 250 phones from us? And I was like, well, why? Like, we just have realized that no one needs a phone. Everyone just uses either the soft phone application on their mobile device.
With us up and down.
I mean, they probably burnt $250,000 on phone hardware.
Yep.
And then we ended up buying it back pennies on the dollar. And realistically, it sat in boxes for years, because we bought it back thinking that, we could resell it someone else. But you know what ended up happening? It ended up in the dumpster.
We sold a bunch.
We had
sold hundreds to another entity who was stuck in the phone game. Mm-hmm. In fact, that entity still uses phones. I think there are still certain businesses that are driven that way, where a soft phone does not work, like shared phone areas.
Typically, people, from what I've seen, if you're mobile within like if you're in the medical industry and you're a doctor or something, right? You need a physical phone, right? Because you're going all over the place and all that kind of stuff. You sit down and you do this, you're not opening up computers to pick up phone calls, to consult and that kind of stuff, right? So like there's always the use case, right? There's always use cases for one and the other, but in reality, most white collar work, you don't need phones anymore.
No.
Hell, you don't even need full-fledged computers anymore. It's literally nothing but a dumb terminal that allows you to access higher compute resources to actually do your job, which is where like the AVD discussion comes in. Why buy, especially now, right? Why buy a laptop that a year ago cost $1,200 and now is $2,500, right? Just go buy something that is the jump box, and now go into something that's a shared resource that you're suspending.
I'm actually
substantially less
happy in a way that the RAM price has gotten so ridiculous. It has made PC prices so ridiculous now that people are starting to think about doing virtual technology, which they should be thinking anyways. It's so hard to get people's mind wrapped around that, because
it's the same principle of security is not a concern until it's a concern. Mm-hmm. Like, no one wants to spend money on security until they go through a security incident, and then they want to throw everything at security.
How many times in the last 12 and 18 months have we had that call from some sort of customer? Or what happens more recently is that another business that our customer works with ends up getting infected. This has happened 3 times this year, where we've had other businesses that were sister businesses or connected into a business subsidiary. Thank you. And that has had to call us and then has become a customer. Mm-hmm. Because we've saved them or pulled them back from not preparing correctly. So it's been interesting. The market shifts and moves a lot. The technology shifts and moves a lot. I made someone very upset on one of the IT forums the other day because they were complaining about the change in technology. And my comment was, hey, dinosaur, no problem. We'll start putting things back on floppy and CDs for you. They didn't, and maybe that was a little bit terse, but the point is,
No, it's a perfect comment.
you know, get out of yourself. Stop thinking that what you're doing, like you just said a few minutes ago, I learned to code this way and that's the way I do things. That's not the way IT is or should be, or when it's done the right way. You got to be forward thinking and trying things. And sometimes you break a few eggs.
Well, if you're not forgetting more than you're learning, realistically, you're not progressing.
Exactly.
Right? Because, I mean, I could probably still get into like the CLI of like old Cisco routers and switches and firewalls and be dangerous, but it's going to take a while for me to remember the various syntax for the CLI.
You used to use those every day.
Every single day. And now it's like, oh shit, how do I check the establishment of a PRI on this phone router?
Let me ask you.
Hold on, no, that's not it. Question mark. Oh, there's the command. Like what used to be just habit.
Instant,
right? Instant habit. You don't use it anymore because technology progresses over time. So you kind of forget it. You know what I mean? Right. Which is a good thing if you look at it, because that means that you're actually progressing with what's now available, and you're not dealing with legacy archaic technology until you walk across the path where you bring in a client or you're dealing with an emergency. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I hate how HP switches have to be configured. You know, those types of things, right? Because now our business, and most businesses they should be operating from single panes of glass.
That's right.
Right. Everything has the ability to call home to some SaaS platform, right? That's why we like to use Meraki everywhere, right? Because it took the question of uniformity across multiple organizations, how we do things via templating, how we manage upgrades and patching and replacement of devices that are RMA'd. Before it used to be an entire process where like you'd have to dispatch an engineer for an entire day because they're having to remove
schedule time off the customer maintenance windows,
all that kind of stuff. Right now, realistically, you're like, okay, well, this is down, but we have this. Let's switch over to that, which I can do over here. You're on site, Mr. Customer. I'm going to flash these lights over here. I want you to walk over here, look at port 24, unplug that, move that over to this one. You guys are back up. I'm going to submit for an RMA. We'll have a switch there tomorrow. Right. That's where we live. Right. And it's only going to progress even further and further and further and further. Right. And if you're stuck dealing with, we have a client who's still on a UC 540. Right.
We do.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you who it is.
That's a travesty. I'm sure they've been told to get off of it.
Oh, for many,
you know who I'm talking about.
Exactly
they're in manufacturing, specifically with metal.
Gotcha.
Right. You're like, oh, it works great. Okay, well, I hope you don't want to change anything on it because I'm hesitant to even get onto it, even if we can get onto it, because if you do anything, it could self-destroy.
I was talking to a customer the other day who we are doing a project for, in fact, moving from a terminal server to AVD. Right. And moving all of their applications. And they kept saying, well, you know, it works so good this way. And why are we changing? And then in the same breath, they were complaining because of the downtime. Right. They would complain, yeah, this works really good, except when it shuts down or the terminal server has to reboot, everybody has to get out. And I said, well, that's why we are suggesting that you use this new model.
Is this an accounting?
Right. This is an accounting firm.
Well, and this is let me expand because this is a perfect example, right? I own an accounting firm. I have multiple people working remotely, different offices, and they're all coming back into my business where the terminal server lives, right? It's now tax season. I use any tax prep software known in the world, right? Because you never know what's being sent into you, right? But I have to maintain certain versions, right? Because maybe there is a version 3 years ago, you know, you have up to 3 years to modify taxes.
Yep. A lot of them stay 7.
Right. So I have to keep this 7 regulatory compliance, maybe. So maybe I have to keep up to 7 different versions of this software, right? Which is continuously getting patched and updated based upon things that are happening in the middle of tax season. So you're all operating off of a central server, all accessing, doing work.
System.
in one certain location, but because Bob in accounting needs to access this application and this application needs to be updated and he's at a standstill because it can't move forward. Now we're having to update an application, schedule downtime, kick everyone off just for Bob to start doing work and then bring it back up. Whereas now, if you're using virtualization in Azure, specifically AVD, right, you could have a couple of different multi-session hosts, which is the exact same thing, to where instead of kicking people off, they just
move to a
different one and keep working while you update a layer. You update one, you then move them back. They're working, everything works, and you go back on the one that they were working on, and you update that, and there's zero downtime.
What the customer finally understood was, how much money does it cost you when it goes down?
Yeah.
What's the financial
People only
impact?
understand the money hit to their pocket, their overhead. And that's a bad way to make business decisions. When you start losing money
at the last minute, it's okay to think that going forward, I want to build an environment that's robust so that my business can continue to operate and make money. We've talked about this before. This is not a cost center. You can't think of IT as a cost center anymore. This is what helps you make profit, right?
IT is the backbone of your business. It's like a good concrete slab as a foundation for your house, right? You're not going to build a house on a cracked concrete slab.
And you certainly don't build a house with old materials.
No.
Unless you're that guy that finds the old barn or whatever.
Yeah.
When 2x4s are actually 2x4s.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. If you're going to build your infrastructure, you have to look at it as what enables your business, not a cost center. Better computers, faster work, easier work, more efficient employees.
Yeah.
Slower computers from third parties via Amazon that have been out of warranty for 7 years. Going to break a lot, not going to work real well, going to be a problem. Right. But some customers will fight for cheap as opposed to good.
So what is I haven't paid attention. What has Microsoft been doing with the cost of cloud computing? Lots of costs going up in the IT world, machines, memory, all of that has gone through the roof. Has Microsoft raised their price for hosting?
Minimally.
Really? I haven't noticed. I track like all of our stuff. Mm-hmm. I look at billing, right? And the more people use things, obviously the billing goes up. But realistically, it doesn't matter to me because it's operational expense. Yeah. Right? If I can translate CapEx to OpEx, it benefits me. And if I can give people a better platform to use that enhances their capabilities and makes your business more robust
and minimizes downtime and makes your business more robust. And it's the whole like growing up and layering things on top of each other instead of the mentality of growing out and using what you have and building on that. You don't need to continuously add widgets. Right. You just enhance the widgets over time.
What's a standard machine that we build now for customers?
Like a laptop or something?
What's a standard laptop?
You're looking at i7 16 gigs minimum typically now.
Right. I was going to say, depending on specific roles, basic frontline employees, maybe an Ultra i5.
Yeah.
Right. Ultra i5,
so
16
we actually recommend two systems, sometimes three, depending on the customer.
If it's like a desktop, it's usually like an i5 with 8 gig because that's typically not a power user. Power users are typically getting laptops, and those laptops typically have a later generation processor, and especially now with Windows 11, minimum 16 gigs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the pig.
And it's an issue of what are you going to be doing? What are you going to be using it for? How responsive do you need it, and how long are you going to be keeping it? I just need a desktop that's going to bridge a 1-year gap. We can have a little more wiggle room on price on that if it's just, if it's bridging a 1-year gap. Right. I have this laptop that I'm going to need for my programmer who's going to be doing a bunch of AI work, and I want to spend less than $1,000 on it.
Good luck.
You're not going to get that. That laptop does not exist.
Well, it goes back to the hosted in the cloud conversation. Mm-hmm. Right? Do you need to spend $15,000 on some crazy CAD box for your CAD developers to build whatever for your business, right? Or do you just, because that's a cost that now you've spent and now you have to maintain, right?
Right.
Or do you build a CAD machine in the cloud, right? And the only time you're paying for it realistically, aside from locked storage, right, is when it's online. Because if you're not doing work, you just shut it off and you're not paying for compute resources. You're just paying for that storage that's being maintained, right? So Now you have your upfront cost of a physical, tangible item, right, for a CAD machine, right? Maybe you need to upgrade it over time, or you need to like throw in like PDM servers and license, all this other kind of stuff. So now you're adding more infrastructure because more people are getting into it, right? Instead of just having something centralized that at a switch of a button, you can add GPUs to it. You can add more RAM processors. You can add additional hard drives. You can change the hard drives types from like a standard SSD to premium, right? All these different things are available literally by clicking a few buttons, and within minimal downtime, as quick as something can go down and come back up, it's pre-provisioned with what you need.
It's a different world. We used to have to talk about the old again. When you wanted to add additional memory to your 286, you put a big board inside of it. They had a half-length, full-length board that you would put inside
boards
there.
And stuff.
It was, and you'd put it into a slot. And then when they came originally, it came with all of the. It wouldn't be a DIMM module. It was what were the little chips?
So
the actual RAM chip.
There were actual RAM chips, and then there were SIMs.
No,
that were
SIMs and DIMMs.
RAM chips.
So the actual chips themselves used to come in a long tube, long plastic tube, and you dump them out, and you take each one of the little chips and make sure that the legs were good. We had a little a box that would line the legs up.
Yep.
And then you take them in, and you'd have to push each single chip in. And it seemed like there was easily 30 on those full length
And
boards.
God forbid you don't line up the little mark right.
That's exactly right.
And God forbid that
Screws
happens.
your whole day. And then you have to take them all off. And then we had a RAM tester, and then you test it. Oh my God, what a nightmare. I'm sure glad those days are over. There was things though that were very endearing about that time, that we actually fixed things instead of throwing them away. I'm one of those worry about the landfill kind of people, I guess, a little bit, you know. And all of the waste that happens because it's such a commodity based world. That's another reason why I really try to push people towards the cloud. The less hardware you have, the less tools you have a dumb tool here and something smart out there that's flexible and usable. Much, much better.
I mean, I haven't seen the pile in a while, but our pile of donations used to be massive.
Oh yeah.
When people would no longer want any of the stuff that they have and they didn't know how to get rid of it, we would drill, remove hard drives, sanitize things, and then computers for kids. We would donate everything to computers for kids. They come with a big ass U-Haul truck, and it literally would be a line of people carrying things back and forth, right? And those piles have slowly gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller over time as people have progressed towards this mentality.
It would be really, really cool if at some point in the future we had a 20-year, 10-year device. You bought this one device and it lasted for 10 or 20 years, and it would just upgraded based on your cloud connectivity.
That's what your big companies like Microsoft, Amazon, even Apple soon, that's what they want. They want you buying, we're going back to the days of dumb terminals. They want you buying a dumb terminal that connects to their cloud resource. And you don't pay for hardware, you pay for a service. And that service then, my internet at home's down, tether it on a cell phone. Take it somewhere else, and it just works, and you can take it anywhere. Because, I mean, even the new Windows Link devices, they're slightly bigger than a CD-ROM from 20 years ago. And you can plug it in anywhere and just log in and do what you need to do, so long as you have some kind of display.
It's wild. And that points to why, and I don't know if a lot of people really understand this, but the reason why we have such data center growth in this country and why that's becoming so critical and why there's billions and billions of dollars being spent on these things. That right there.
The whole idea is, some people say you'll own nothing and like it. And other people say you'll own nothing and never have to throw anything away.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that too.
And those are the two different ideas of it's all just in the cloud and it's just protected. And that's where Apple gets a lot of credit. It's all temporary anyways. It's all protected. They do an extremely good job of protecting your data. Other companies, have different layers, and it is what it is. that's why you should also be aware of your own. We were talking about memory and putting it on boards. It used to be you had to truly understand everything you were doing with the magic box to make the computer work.
It must go in this slot and that slot if you're running this specific CPU.
And you must flip these dip switches this way, and you must change these pins to X.
Exactly. You have to pull out the little jumper and you have to move the little jumper.
That's right.
You have to know how to do it. We keep abstracting that more and more. And it's less about knowing the magic of how the box works and knowing the magic of how to tell the box what you want to do. Yeah. And that's where AI has come in, is it can do whatever I want. I just have to properly be able to communicate with it to have it do what I want it to do. I don't need to know all the back end of the networking and the wiring and the, how does it connect to the data center? What's happening in the back end of the data center? Where are the CPUs, GPUs, memory coming from? You don't have to worry about any of that. It's a drop down and a save.
What would be interesting to me, just listening to what you're saying, right? We've all used artificial intelligence, and I would hope anyone that's listening to this has at least dabbled with it. But talking to AI is almost like its own language, right? I remember going through like communications and public speaking classes and all that kind of stuff, both in school and college and all that kind of stuff, right? Will there ever be a time where there is a purposeful class where they actually teach you how to communicate correctly with artificial intelligence to get the best outcome, ultimately what you're looking for?
Or will artificial intelligence become smart enough to just do it itself?
Maybe. I was going to say, how many engineers do you think right now are doing linguistic analysis on people to be able to train those models, to be able to better understand what the human is asking for?
We're training them.
Because it's about intent.
We are training,
and not about what you're saying. And that's where the more direct and the more you understand what it is that you're actually trying to do, and the more easily you can break it up into, this is what I want my front end to look like. This is what I want the back end to look like. This is how I want the data stored. This is the way I want it maintained. These are the things you're allowed to touch. These are the things you're not allowed to touch. These are the things that you require approval to touch. And that way you can actually get a usable product out of it and not just be throwing words and then getting frustrated because the magic machine is not giving you what you want.
Yeah, I look forward to the day where you could give like a one sentence, this is what I want, right? And it understands what you're looking for, but it goes further and then understands what you really need to pull it off. So you don't have to come back after you've developed something and be like, oh shit, I forgot all these back end services that I aren't back to. It's not fun, right? Where it just knows that you need to do this. So I'm going to give you more than you're asking for. Right. Because right now you're only going to get what you're asking for.
That's right.
Right.
You didn't ask for this, but here's all the details of how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
What you really want.
That in itself is well,
and that's why people nowadays should be asking AI, help me create a prompt, ask me questions, prompt me through, I want to start a business or I want this process. Ask me all the questions that would need to be asked to do this the right way.
Well, that's why. So like for all of our engineers, right? I don't know if you guys saw it. I sent out a master prompt for them to use for all their AI, right? Because the problem with artificial intelligence, the thing that really grinds my gears, especially when I'm using it as a development assistant, is like I'll put something in with a certain expectation, and then it goes down this 4 or 5 page diatribe that's consuming output tokens on like, this is what you're asking for. Let me give you the history of this and why, right? No, just give me the answer. Right. I don't give a shit about everything else. Right. If I have further questions, I'll ask the questions so I can actually understand. Right. So I always put on this before I start any session. It's you are acting as this with all of these parameters. Right. There will be no like random questions. If you're going to give me code, don't give it inside of code blocks because it'll get truncated and half will be cut off and all these different things that I've learned over time using it to where I've had to massage this master prompt whenever I start a session to where you're actually getting like a couple lines response with actionable things. And it's not giving you the fluff around and the vomit behind it, right? Which makes it much easier, but it makes me also understand why a lot of people get frustrated. Right. And it's not just an artificial intelligence thing. It's a communication thing. You don't know how to correctly communicate what you're looking for, which goes back to the critical thinking.
Yeah.
Right. You need to have some form of critical thinking when you want to do anything, whether it's moving your business forward from antiquated technology to what's now available, right? Or using artificial intelligence. There has to be critical thinking behind it, not just action based upon losing money because X happens.
It doesn't just do it for you. It's not a magic button that you press and it reads your mind.
I can't pump myself full of steroids and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger without going to the gym because it's
Only if it's right in the bicep.
It's the exact same thing, right? You now have the cheat code, right? But you still have to put the effort forward to get what the expectation or the outcome that you're looking for is.
The prompts are a critical deal. I see a lot of people pushing that on the socials about here's the best prompts and download my prompts. That's a big part of using it. So if you watch the indicators that are in the market, they're kind of telling you where to go to get the best result from it.
Well, and do you use their prompt or do you read and understand their prompt and then develop your own? Because your own is always going to be more of what you want.
It's always going to be better if you do your own.
Exactly.
Well,
and then you're learning how the machine works.
I was talking to one of our engineers. This is a while ago. And this is one of my. You know what would be cool, right? And it was it'd be cool. It'd be cool if someone built a website that had different models on the back end that you could select, and you could kind of tell it what you're looking for, and it could walk you with leading questions and hold your hand on how do I actually build this prompt that I'm going to use with this specific model. And this is the outcome I want. Well, here's your prompt. Now take it and go put it in the actual model and get your result, right? And then someone had already built it. But the idea is sound, and the reasoning why it exists, it's true, right? It's the lack of communication. It's literally a new language that you have to learn because we can communicate with each other based upon how we grew up communicating, right? I may have some dickish mannerisms because I'm the East Coast, some from the West Coast, surfer, a hippie-ish, that type, but it doesn't make a difference. We still have to be able to communicate, whereas there is nothing. You're just explaining something, and then based upon exactly what you asked for is exactly what you get back.
Computers have always been a new language that we have all had to learn. And we've learned it more and more over time. As it, in the beginning, it was very, very few businesses, and now every business and every day, Windows is a language. You had to learn how to talk to it and how to do different things. AI is no different.
Yeah, it's a new product. It's a new way of doing things. You learn the new product. Most people have been using Office for so long, you don't remember when you learned, Control C, Control V. But everybody has that hardwired into their hand now, so they don't have to think about it. AI is going to be there. It's just new.
Yeah, they're not even thinking about like good use cases too, right? Like here's a use case, right? So we push everyone to OneDrive. Why? Because we don't want to deal with desktop backups. And realistically, if a PC goes down, everything should be in OneDrive or SharePoint anyway. That way it's just a rebuild, reprovision, and now you have everything back, right? So knowing this, and you ultimately push everyone towards saving everything like on your desktop, or realistically your documents, right? I don't know how anyone else's documents have looked since we started using OneDrive, but it's like completely disheveled. No reasoning behind why this folder exists or why something lives there. But like you can use Copilot, Cowork now to like, hey, go analyze everything in my documents. Go look inside of every file I have and understand the context of every file. Without deleting everything, I want you to build me a completely new file structure with folders and subfolders in my documents, and I want you to copy and rename every document based upon its context so I can have an actual system in my documents that I know where to go look for something when I need it, instead of trying to, obviously you can use Copilot for this and find that kind of stuff, but realistically, you still need to be organized because unstructured information does nothing for AI, whereas structured information can do anything you want with it, right? So like, here's a perfect example of things that probably grind people's gears. They don't even realize it's currently capable right now, right? Those types of things blow my mind, right? And this wasn't available a year ago.
Nope.
What's available in a year from now, right?
That's why you need a good business consultant. You need somebody who's staying up to speed as much as possible on this kind of technology. And the only people that do that, it's the same in any job anywhere. If you're doing something every day over and over, you're going to become the best at it if you're passionate or whatever. But that's how the game is played. Do it more and more, and you learn it more and more in depth. So finding a good partner that can help push your business, help move you forward technology-wise, you wouldn't know that. Josh, and if you didn't work in AI every day, almost all day long, working with it and talking about it and dealing with it, you wouldn't know these things. And there's a lot, and the world's moving very quickly, faster than even any small or medium-sized business keeps up with. I don't know if any one of I don't know that I could name one of our customers that truly is on the edge of utilizing AI today the way we do as a business. I mean, obviously we do it because we have a reason to do it and we learn it for our customers, but we don't even have a customer now that's using it even close to the way we use it. We want them to use it that way. They know they need it or have some inkling in their mind that this is the way the world is going, but they don't know yet.
I mean, we still have customers that are putting in physical servers at sites, even though they have Azure resources they could use.
We have a customer that has another IT firm and us that they work with. This is a large customer, and this other larger IT company than us tried to convince them to put new servers into their environment. They have Azure.
They did. They convinced them, and they probably spent...
Did they end up buying them?
They bought a shitload of servers, and then you know what happened 6 months later? We're doing a massive cloud migration from off-premise into Azure and centralizing everything for all their subordinate companies across the country.
There's still people thinking 5 and 10 years old in their mind of how to do something.
Their profit structure is based off that. Where we're thinking about the future and we're thinking about, we're worried about our residuals from 365. That's where we're making our money. They never went down that road. They're wanting their points on a server.
And they're terrible at 365.
And they never learned it. They stayed stagnant. And now, of course, they're going to keep selling what they've been selling as opposed to learning, hey, why should I be selling, 2005 widgets when I could be selling 2025
Well,
widgets?
there's multiple parts to that. That's really interesting. I don't know that people understand. It's not just buying the hardware. It's the people that support the hardware. And if you haven't moved your engineering team forward, you haven't trained them like Josh has done with our guys, certifications and learning and feeding them, their knowledge gets stagnant. They become server experts, and that's what they're comfortable with. And so when you ask them for a solution, they go, you put in a server and we'll do this and this and it'll be great, right? It's because they're stuck in the past and their leadership didn't push them forward. And
that's the difference. And we were there at one point, right? Break, fix commodity. There's a difference between being an actual consultant, right? I care less about making money off tangibles, and I care more about doing the right thing for the customer and making sure the deliverable meets their expectations so they don't bother me. That's
the way I feel.
That's a true statement, right? Like if I make a bunch of money doing a migration into Azure and Azure is set up correctly with redundancy across multiple regions or availability zones or however you want to do it, right? But it just works, right? And the only time I need to do it is if something needs to be added, right? Even if I'm not making money off of it, right? The client gets what they want. I've made money off the deployment, and now I'm only bothered if they need something more, right? And the more you move in that direction, the more you can actually handle in a business. You don't want little turds and Band-Aids all over the place, right? You want to do it right the first time from the get-go because you don't want to have to go reinvent the wheel again for something that you thought was what they wanted or what they needed.
You brought it up earlier when you said, if someone in our society, the VA or whoever, doesn't bring their technology up, it slows everything else down.
100%.
And the same thing happens in a business, right? If you're not moving forward as a group and a team and as an effort to push that, you stay stagnant.
To Josh's point, companies like the one we're speaking about, they make their money off of the break fix. They make their money when their customer has an outage. We make our money when our customers run.
Yeah.
Because we put a solution in place that is going to work consistently for a long time.
Why would you want to work with somebody that's waiting for you to break so that you don't make any money?
I would rather to have clients that are constantly questioning our value and why they're paying us because they don't ever hear from us, right? Because that's a much easier conversation to have of, well, here's all the metrics, here's everything that we're doing that isn't user facing, but it's in the back end and we're making sure your business is working without any downtime. That's a much easier explanation to have with a conversation to have with a customer, right? Than, hey, why was I down for 4 days over the holiday weekend? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't have any engineers available. Well, like, I'm sorry, I'm paying you for a service that you're not delivering, right? So now you're being reactive instead of proactive. It's the whole mind shift of managed services and IT within enterprise or corporations or SMB. It should always be proactive and moving forward. And you should always be monitoring and calling them or notifying of them that something's happening that could be business impacting, right? Before they're like, hey, we're hard down and I haven't gotten a call from anyone in 3 days, but I put a ticket in last night at 11:59 p.m. and now it's 3 days later and no one's reached out and we're still down.
Yep.
That's the difference. That really is a difference between good and bad IT, good and bad managed service providers. It's almost toxic, right? It's a hard mindset for business owners to shift to because they're so used to the break fix mentality of, oh shit, we're down. Okay, call them. Let's see how long it takes to get someone out here.
There's too many business owners that fear IT, right? They fear the IT guy. Well, he told me we had to do it this way. Well, we have to. No, it's your business. It's your life. Ask the questions. Your IT provider, your partner should be able to answer those questions and help you move forward. Don't be afraid.
We do it all the time, right? Like even in our cyber contract offering, right? There are some, no shit, you must have this. And if you don't have this, we're not playing ball together. Here are some peripheral things that also enhance your security posture. But if you don't really want it, or maybe you have something that's similar to it, you don't really need it, right? I don't need to sell you something that you don't need. I don't need to support something that you're not using. So it's a conversation. It's your business at the end of the day. I am just the person that's trying to help you get to where you want to be. But if you don't want it, okay, we've had the conversation. And if it ever comes back full circle, do you remember this conversation? Do you remember this email? Let me pull this email back up where I said this.
Well, and
do you remember that?
We honestly have that happen. I wouldn't say a ton, but we do have it happen with some clients. And we have to let them feel the pain before they come around and realize that what we told them was right. We've had that happen multiple times this year alone. Mm-hmm. People call us, go, yeah, we should have done that. Now, can we do it? Yeah. Yes, you can, right? Life's about learning lessons. That's okay. Customers need to learn it. Businesses need to learn it. Mistakes are made, but you got to move forward. I, for one, do not want to go back to the 5 1/4 floppy. I am okay with that never coming into my life again. I'm okay with losing all of that. I'm okay with losing CDs and USB drives and all of that crap. I don't want that. I want the future to be availability to all of my data all the time, anywhere I'm at from any device.
I do miss throwing them like Frisbees, though, to see who could throw one in the farthest.
It's a good time.
It's a good time.
Stick up in the ceiling. We used to do that in the bottom of the Disney, Roy O. Disney building. We had one of those ceilings that we'd make them into little shards and see if we could stick them in the ceiling. That was a good time.
It was a good time.
Good times. Playing Doom in the basement, Quake in the basement. Mm-hmm. That was good stuff. Well, I appreciate the walk down memory lane today, guys. It was it was entertaining for me, and I think there's a lot to be learned from past precedents of the way people have done their IT systems and the way they need to move forward. It only works. Technology only works well. You don't have to be on the bleeding edge. That's not what we're saying.
We'll be on the bleeding edge for you.
It's okay, right? We should be. That's our job, to be on the bleeding edge. And your partner, your provider, the people helping you with IT, they need to be pushing the envelope all the time, breaking the eggs. Once they've done that, they need to be coming to you going, hey, it's time to change. It's time to implement. It's time to move to the cloud. 6 years ago, one of our VP of sales came to me as he did about every year for about 10 years. He'd come to me and go, can we move to the cloud yet? Can we move to the cloud yet? Because there were other people that were doing private clouds, other competitors, right? Mm-hmm. Can we do this? And I would go, no. Finally, we reached a point where the bandwidth that we had from our ISPs was correct and the service offering was correct, and you'd get a good solution. And we started to move that direction. And Josh, you came up with how do we implement and how do we work in the 365 world, and that's how we got there. But by doing what we did, we were 3 or 4 years ahead of most of our competitors.
We're
with
typically
regards to
it's actually very frustrating, right? We're typically about 2 years ahead of everyone else. We're so far ahead that our clients don't even know that they need something that they're missing because we're so far ahead, right? Which is great on a couple fronts, realistically, because it allows us to be on that bleeding edge. Yep. And understanding what we know is going to come, even if it's not here at our doorstep right now. We know, okay, I now need to identify certain training paths for these engineers and this subset of engineers and this subset of engineers, and go.
There's a lot that goes into it.
Go get certified. I'm going to pay for everything. I'll pay for all your training materials. Just give me a certification on my desk, right? And then I'll throw you a raise or a bonus, right? So it allows us to get to market early and then be prepared for the influx when it actually comes, compared to everyone else. Oh shit, everyone's asking for AI automation. What are we going to do? Okay, well, here, go use all this stuff. Vios Candia, right? Have fun. Let us know if you need help. And then it blows up.
Yes.
Or even worse, hey, we're using all these random AIs that we found on the internet. And now all of our data is now available that every company can now use to train their AIs.
Exactly.
Why didn't we have our data secure?
Why is our proprietary information searchable via Google? Because I've seen that happen before.
Well, as we move forward in IT, as always, if you found this entertaining, give us a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comment below or give us a call. The company is Stability Networks. And thanks for hanging out with us today. Thanks for listening to Why It Matters. If today's conversation opened your eyes or gave you something real to think about, share this episode with a business owner or friend who may need it. And if you want more insights on how to make technology actually work for your business, subscribe and follow us for upcoming episodes. And until next time, take care of your tech, and it will take care of you.